What's up, guys? Jordan McAbee here, fantasyracing.online.com, home of the Slingshot Fantasy Auto Contest. And today, we're going to make some fantasy NASCAR lineups for Homestead. All right, finally, we get to like somewhat of a normal race. So, Homestead is interesting. So technically, it's a mile and a half, which used to be, and kind of still is, the dominant track type on the schedule. But it's what we call high wear. So there are a few tracks on the schedule that have very abrasive and very worn out surfaces that cause tire wear to come into play in the race. Homestead's one of them. Atlanta is another mile and a half that has tire wear or is high wear. Darlington, a little bit less than a mile and a half in length, but still included. And then the old, I guess, will be old Auto Club Speedway, which was a 2-mile track, also high wear. So what we have to deal with this weekend, the race this weekend, the Dixie Vodka 400 at Homestead-Miami, is it's very unlikely that we're going to see surprise drivers finish up front. We're not going to see a Cole Custer come and steal the win like he did at Kentucky last year. We're not going to see Austin Dillon come and steal a win like he did at Texas last year. The reason being is because anybody that would try to gamble on not pitting or not getting tires, even if they've only had 5 laps on them, is going to be a sitting duck from anyone behind them. That's how much tires matter here. So this race, in a way, becomes more predictable than what we saw last year, especially with the mile and a halves. Like I said, Cole Custer, Austin Dillon, both of them grabbing wins. What's interesting with Miami, though, Homestead Miami, is it always used to be the final race of the year. And it used to be the championship race. Last year was the first time that Homestead was near the not at the end. We'll just call it that. I don't think it was this early last year, as far as on the schedule, not being the third race. But so when it was the final race, not only did you have drivers that didn't care about the race at all. It's the final race of the season. They just want to, get into the off season and focus on the next year. What we often saw when Homestead was a final race also was teams would use this race to experiment. They'd try out, experimental setups, experimental engines, and that would kind of mess up the data because you have drivers that should have finished well, but they, had an experimental engine in and blew the engine halfway through the race or something like that. And this is kind of going back, quite a bit. But then when they introduced the chase format and then the final championship race being at Homestead, whereas winner take all, what you essentially got, and we saw it at Phoenix last year, is 4 drivers actually racing and everybody else just not wanting to screw up. Nobody else really cared to race at Phoenix last year except for Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, and Denny Hamlin. I think those were the final 4 last year. I could be wrong. But you get the point. And that's what Miami turned into too. We saw guys like Kyle Larson usually take this race pretty seriously because it's one of his best tracks. But in the end, really the only guys that really cared were the championship 4. So this time around, and we saw it last year, everyone's actually trying. So what I'm long-windedly getting at here is taking into account specific Homestead data might not be focusing specifically on that might not be the best strategy with this race on Sunday. Like I said, we do have other. Sorry, I forgot to pull up one tab here. We do have other races, high wear races to go off of. So they raced 3 times at Darlington last year. They raced once at here at Homestead, once at Atlanta, which Kevin Harvick dominated because he always does, and then once at Auto Club. So let's go back and look. Let's go back and look at last year's Homestead race. So, green flag speed wise, another thing you'll see with these high wear tracks is drivers that have maybe an extra pit stop or two are going to be high on the green flag speed rankings because they have extra laps on those newer tires. So we saw Michael McDowell have the best green flag speed here at Homestead last year. Matt DiBenedetto second. They didn't have the two best cars in that race. Denny Hamlin by far had the best car in last year's race. Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, all there, top 5 all night. And they, as you can see here, they ranked 3rd through 5th in green flag speed. So let's move over to average running position in that race. Denny Hamlin had an average running position of 1.8. Like, he dominated this race. I remember it well because I didn't pick him. I don't like picking Denny Hamlin. And after his disappointment just the previous year in the championship race, I was not on Denny Hamlin. And I'll gladly admit that because I can admit when I'm wrong. But another thing about this race last year at Homestead was it was scheduled to run during the day. They ran into rain and it turned into a night race, which ultimately ended up benefiting Joe Gibbs Racing because they were not good last year. If you remember back to the 2020 season, most mile-and-a-half tracks they struggled at if the race was during the day. They got better throughout the year and kind of back to themselves, toward the end of the season. But at the beginning, they really struggled during the day in these mile-and-a-half tracks. So we saw Joe Gibbs Racing look great, which was surprising in and of itself. Not to mention Denny Hamlin, who disappointed most recently at Homestead. It was a weird race. A couple memorable things from that race though was Tyler Reddick. This was kind of the first race last year that Reddick showed his potential, I guess I'd say. Ran top 5 all night. Looked great. I think he had like 48 fastest laps that race. But he also, if you remember, he on the last lap he thought the race was over, and he completely like let off the gas and started thanking his crew and everything for the good run. And they're like, "You need to go. We got one more lap left." That was pretty funny. I'm sure you can find it on Twitter or somewhere. I just saw it tonight again, actually, for the first time. But let's go ahead and look at enough of my rambling. Let's take a look at the starting lineup for Sunday's race at Homestead. So we are past the super speedway and road course shenanigans, I guess is a good way to put it, in those crazy races. But as far as the Slingshot Fantasy Auto Contest goes, we're kind of getting now into more what I would call normal races, and not races so heavily focused on, when you're building a lineup, to be so heavily focused on place differential. It's still a factor, obviously, but not as much as Daytona, the oval especially, and then also the Daytona road course. So we'll get into lineup construction here in a little bit, but keep in mind now, we also should be, in my opinion, should be focusing on stage points as well, and potential the dominator of the race. So this opens the door, in my opinion, to pick the drivers that start a little further up front, don't have that place differential, but have could win the race potential. But we got Denny Hamlin on the pole for Sunday's race, Joey Logano second, last week's winner Christopher Bell in starting third, Kevin Harvick fourth, Kurt Busch fifth, Michael McDowell, who is off to an awesome start. He got another top 10 finish last week at the Daytona road course, starting sixth. Brad Keselowski seventh. Ryan Preece, another guy who started off with back-to-back top 10s to start off this 2021 season, starting eighth. Martin Truex Jr. starting ninth, and Cole Custer 10th. Fan favorite Elliott 11th. And you can kind of see here the rest of the starting lineup. Let's go back and look at the major place differential play. So we got Matt DiBenedetto starting 37th. Tyler Reddick, who was a solid top 5 car here last year, starting 35th. Ross Chastain starting 32nd. William Byron 31st. Chase Briscoe 30th. There's choices. We got Kyle Busch, who's always been great here at Homestead, starting 24th. Austin Dillon, who I actually like this week, starting 22nd. And Kyle Larson, who has a great history here. He has a few top 5s. Somehow was never able to really close out a win here, starting 17th. He's now in the best equipment he's ever had. If you saw my article on, I think, Tuesday, or no, it was Monday. Monday opening odds came out, and he was 14-1. And you can see right here on the screen, you need to bet these two drivers to win right now. He opened at 14-1. DraftKings quickly moved it down to 10-1, and then all the way down to 8-1 soon after. Crazy value there, getting Kyle Larson at 14-1 to win this race, because he definitely can. Another guy, if you haven't checked out that article, the other guy that I talked about was Tyler Reddick, who opened at 28-1, I think was down to 20-1 by the end of the day on Monday. So that's what starting lineup looks like. So let's go look at Slingshot driver prices for this race. Chase Elliott, highest price. Martin Truex Jr., second highest. Then we got Harvick, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Keselowski, Logano, Kyle Larson. Those are our 8 drivers priced above $11,000, topping out at Chase Elliott there at $12,500. Let's get right into lineup construction. How about that? So we know how important place differential can be. So as far as a safe lineup, you're gonna want to target, guys like Chase Briscoe starting 30th, Tyler Reddick starting 35th, Matt DiBenedetto starting 37th. I don't think Ross Chastain starting 32nd. So using those 4 guys with this strategy of lineup, which I don't hate. It's a very safe way of playing. I don't think it's going to get you maximum points, but it has the potential, if you hit, 2 of these guys, if 2 of these guys have a good finish, you're going to have a pretty good day, as long as you don't screw up, the 5th pick, which if this was me, you have enough cap to get anybody else you want. I'd throw in Kyle Busch starting 24th or Kyle Larson starting 17th. Maybe even Ryan Blaney starting 14th. Chase Elliott starting 11th. I think Chase Elliott can win this race. He has place differential potential there, starting 11th. But I'd probably go Kyle Busch in this lineup. If this was my strategy for a lineup, I'd go Kyle Busch, Reddick, DiBenedetto, Briscoe, and Chastain. The reason being, you're focusing simply on place differential. It's 2 points per position in this game. I know I've gotten some questions this week about how did I score, so little points this week. You have to remember it's 2 points per position, positive or negative. So someone like me, I'm not going to put a lineup. I'm not going to pick anybody probably starting inside the top 5 unless I think the driver can win the first 2 stages, lead the most laps, and win the race. So this week, Denny Hamlin starting first. I would consider putting Denny Hamlin in my lineup if this was a little later in the season. If you watched my video on this last week, you know that I'm relatively conservative to start out the year. That's just how I roll. Especially when we're basically going off of data from last year right now. A lot of new names this year as well. Even the sophomore drivers of Reddick, Custer, Bell. We're not 100% sure what to expect of them. Christopher Bell won last week. Can he do it again this week? I honestly think he can. And I'll tell you why here in a little bit. But Let's go ahead. Speaking of last year and that data, let's look into it a little bit. Again, if I'm going for a super safe lineup with Slingshot here, I'm going to go Kyle Busch, Tyler Reddick, DiBenedetto, Briscoe, and Chastain, just because chances of all 5 of them wrecking aren't very high, and if they move up at all, you're going to get a decent score out of them. That would just be my strategy if I was just going to be safe. But let's look here quick. So this is the data from the 6 races on high wear tracks in 2020. A lot of stuff here. So let's just go through it quick. So again, we got Atlanta Auto Club here at Homestead, and then we actually had 3 races at Darlington. Best average finish over those 6 races, Denny Hamlin at 5.2, Harvick at 6.8, Kyle Busch 7.5, Brad Keselowski and Kurt Busch averaging 8.7, Alex Bowman 9.5, and Eric Almirola 9.7. Got Truex, Chase Elliott. I think those two had a couple bad finishes that kind of threw off their finishing average. So let's look at average driver rating over those races. Harvick actually the best. No doubt part of that is because he is so good at Atlanta, and good all around. I mean, him and Hamlin were the best cars last year, so it makes sense that they are up here in these stats as well. Alex Bowman, I think he dominated the Darlington race. I forget, actually. But him, Chase Elliott, Truex, all 5 of those guys had an average driver rating above 100. So all solid on this kind of track type. We got fastest laps here, laps led, laps inside the top 15. One thing I really like to look at, though, is average running position. Denny Hamlin, 6.1. Just so good on high wear tracks. Chase Elliott right there with him, 6.6. Truex, 7.2. Harvick, 7.2 as well. And then Alex Bowman, 7.4. And then it's a bit of a gap back to Kyle Busch at 9.9. Then you got another gap back to Keselowski at 11.0. So this gives you an idea of who ran well on these high wear racetracks. Another thing we can look at is low wear racetracks, which I kind of throw all the 1.5 miles in there that are not Atlanta or Homestead. So you got like Las Vegas, Kentucky, Kansas, Charlotte. I know I'm missing some. You get the point. Those tracks, tires don't really matter as much. That's where we saw Cole Custer win, saw Austin Dillon win, saw Joey Logano win at, was it the second Vegas race that he stole the win from Harvick, who had the best car. Teams can gamble on the low-wear racetracks and steal a good finish there at the end with track position. Can't do that at high-wear racetracks. But let's go ahead and look at those. Ryan Blaney blew everybody else out of the water, so this table's already sorted by average running position. Ryan Blaney was by far the best on 1.5 miles last year as far as average running position. I don't think he ever won, but real solid. Average running position at 6.2 over those races. Truex, of course, is up there. Alex Bowman again. Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, all of them sub-9 average running positions. Kevin Harvick. Kyle Larson ran one race, I believe it was Las Vegas last year before he got suspended. And also ran one high-wear race at Auto Club. But average finish-wise, on the low-wear tracks last year, Keselowski 6.4, Harvick 7.2, Ryan Blaney at 7.7. Larson must have finished 9th in his one race. And then Truex 9.4. And take a look at driver rating here quick. Blaney, Harvick, Truex, Logano, Elliott, and Bowman all average over 100 when it came to driver rating on the low-wear tracks. So one thing you'll see is Let's go back to, let's look at Homestead specifically here quick. See if I can get driver averages to load a little bit quicker. So over the last 3 races, look at this. Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Joe Gibbs Racing, Joe Gibbs Racing, Joe Gibbs Racing. This is one reason why I like Christopher Bell this week. Another reason I like Christopher Bell is he has Kyle Busch's old crew chief. Let's take a look at Kyle Busch's results. So Adam Stevens linked up with Kyle Busch in 2015. His results with him at Homestead: 1st, 6th, 2nd, 4th, 1st, and 6th. Solid. So now Christopher Bell is in the best equipment he's had in Cup Series. He's coming off a win. He's starting 3rd. Oh, by the way, he started 36th and finished 8th in this race last year, driving the Levine car. He obviously, if you take a look at his driver rating here, he didn't run 8th all day, but he still finished there. And he showed promise quite a bit on intermediate tracks last year. Again, for the second week in a row, I like Christopher Bell. I think I had one guy last week tell me I wasn't, like, called me out and said I was lying about being on Christopher Bell. I only talked about him in literally every article almost. I guess that's kind of goes against each other. Almost every article I talked about Christopher. I talked about Christopher Bell so much last weekend. I don't understand why someone's going to sit there and say I wasn't on him. But, hey, you do you, bud. I'm going to do me. So we get an idea here of who has been very good at Homestead over the last 3 races. So this is coming from the start of 2018. Hamlin has the best average driver rating. Kyle Busch second. Tyler Reddick, who only has 1 start, average driver rating is 3rd best. Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick up there, and then Kyle Larson. So Kyle Larson, he was always very good at this track. He's like Tyler Reddick. They both ride up against the wall, and that is the fastest way around this track. The thing with Kyle Larson is his car always kind of just faded through the second half of the race. You look at these races here. 2016, he started 24th, led 132 laps, finished 2nd. Started 7th in 2017, led 145 laps, won the first 2 stages, finished 3rd. He kind of just faded. But if you look here at stage finishes, look at this. First, 2nd, 3rd, 2nd. Kyle Larson is very good at this track. He's now in the best equipment he's ever had in the Cup Series. He should be a very popular fantasy pick this weekend. Oops. And starting, where does he start? Starting 17th, awesome pick for Slingshot. You can't really argue against it. So let's put a lineup together with Kyle Larson in it. So we'll go Larson. Do you trust Blaney? So Ryan Blaney, we just went over his stats on low wear mile and a half last year. His stats weren't as great on high wear mile and a half. Sorry, my nose itches. But you have to take into account the fact that Ryan Blaney is not very good at Darlington, and Darlington accounted for 3 of those 6 races at high wear tracks last year. So let's look at Blaney here at Homestead. Finished 3rd last year, led 70 laps. Solid day. Let's go look at him at Auto Club. Last year, finished 19th. If you remember, though, him and Alex Bowman were the class of the field in that race, battling the whole time. You see here, Blaney led 54 laps, finished 2nd in stage 1, 1st in stage 2. Solid run. I think he had a tire problem late. And then Atlanta, 4th. Obviously, it's not going to be surprising if Ryan Blaney finishes top 5 here on Sunday at Homestead. He just overall good pick. So let's do Larson, Blaney. I think Tyler Reddick is a no-brainer play. Like, it would be very difficult for me to put any slingshot lineup together without Tyler Reddick in it. That leaves us $18,200 for the final 2 drivers. So now you kind of have to decide, do you want to dip down and go with not a back marker, but one of those below average teams? Because if you played the Slingshot Fantasy Auto Contest last year, you probably noticed that typically the top lineup construction each week considered of 1 or 2 of the higher price drivers, 1 or 2 of the mid-range, and then a low dollar guy. I'm talking like, for example, in this pricing structure, someone like a Anthony Alfredo or Michael McDowell, down in that price range, not digging down into James Davison level or anything. But really, as far as starting position, I wouldn't feel ultra comfortable going with anyone except Anthony Alfredo in this price range. Corey LaJoie, maybe. He has Steve Letarte being the crew chief for him this week. But for me, maybe Daniel Suarez. I honestly, this is going to be a great weekend to see what Daniel Suarez's car is actually, how much speed it actually has. Because I'll tell you what, I am the biggest Daniel Suarez hater out there, and he's been impressive the first 2 races. Now, obviously, it's Daytona 500 and a road course race, not exactly normal, but he has caught my eye. And I'm going to be paying quite a bit of attention to him this weekend at Homestead to see how good that 99 car is. Because right now he's faster than I thought it'd be. So I don't really want to take a risk with Suarez. So if I'm going to build a lineup like this, I'm probably going to dip down and grab Alfredo and just hope he finishes the race. He should be able to move up into mid-20s, maybe upper 20s, depending on how many wrecks there are. That's typically what John Hunter Nemechek did in this car last year. I'm expecting similar results. So you throw in Anthony Alfredo along with Reddick, Blaney, and Kyle Larson. That leaves you $11,500, and I don't love it. I don't love this lineup by any means. You could get Keselowski. His stats aren't great here or on high wear tracks. Penske overall isn't a really big dominating organization. If you dip down to Corey LaJoie, you can then jump up and grab Kyle Busch. I do think Kyle Busch is going to be a contender on Sunday. And let's go look at my algorithm predictions very quickly. Super close up top with Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick at right there 39s each. Got Chase Elliott, Joey Logano predicted to finish 4th, Truex 5th. Has Kyle Busch finishing 7th, Kurt Busch 8th, Ryan Blaney 9th, Christopher Bell 10th, and that's kind of surprising in and of itself, just because of how Christopher Bell had a lot of bad luck last year, which is most of the data we have for him, and it still likes him to finish 10th. So someone to keep an eye on. Would I pick him in Slingshot? Probably not. He starts 3rd. If he has a tire go down or something, he's not going to have a very good score in that game. So let's go. If I was going to try to put Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick all in one lineup, or at least those core 3 there of Larson, Blaney, and Reddick, you're going to have to dip down and probably grab someone like a Corey LaJoie. I think Justin Haley at 6,200 is a little too risky. And the back marker cars, it's not going to work out, honestly, in this race. Now, what if you... So we know Kyle Larson's going to be good. We know Tyler Reddick should be good. We know Kyle Busch should be good. So what if we took off Blaney and went with a... Matt DiBenedetto is just so chalky. But let's do that and see what we can get instead of LaJoy. So that leaves us 8,500. Okay. You pretty much have your choice then between Briscoe and Chastain. This is kind of similar to the lineup we put together first. That was very just safe and banking on place differential. So we got 8,500. You could throw in Austin Dillon here. Let's go look at his stats from Homestead, or at Homestead. Wow. I did not realize Austin Dillon was that good here. I knew he was decent, but I didn't think he was, couldn't always or constant top 10 threat. Yeah, I'll throw in Austin Dillon in this lineup. Give me Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, so you have two guys that can win this race. Reddick, DiBenedetto as the major place differential plays, and then Austin Dillon as a choice to get you off that, Chastain, Briscoe chalk of just going off place differential, and you could have top 10 upside with Christopher Bell or with Austin Dillon if his race goes right. Yeah, I don't mind that lineup one bit. I might actually end up going with that. You could also come up here, switch Kyle Busch out for Harvick. Probably wouldn't do that. There's a chance that Harvick dominates this race, wins the stages, but Kyle Busch just has so much potential going on with starting 24th, in this slingshot game. Unless he wrecks, he should put up one of the top, if not the top score in this game this week. You don't have enough cap to go up and grab Chase Elliott, who I also like. I think he can definitely win this race, and he has a little bit of place differential upside there starting 11th. Same with Truex at 12.4. So what if we took off DiBenedetto and went with Chase Briscoe instead? That'd leave us 900. Yeah, you could easily pick up Chase Elliott or Martin Truex instead of Kyle Busch if you didn't want to go that route. I still think Kyle Busch is the top option, but if you don't like him or just want to kind of go against the guy that was probably going to be the highest, I don't know if he'll be the highest. I bet Reddick's the highest owned in this game. It'll be close, but yeah. Good luck to everybody on Sunday at Homestead. I hope this video helped you out a little bit on what we're thinking and what I think we should be looking at heading into Sunday for this race. It should be a good one. I like watching Homestead races. I usually have a little bit of difficulty putting together great lineups for them, but we'll see how it goes. Good luck. See you next week.